Hello everyone, and welcome to day 1 of Killershrewfan's 12 days of reviews. Now earlier this year I found myself on a large CollectA kick where I suddenly felt the urge to get my hands on some of their figures that I felt I had slept on for long enough. It hit hard, then faded quickly, and I actually turned around and parted with some of the same figures during downsizing. However, one that came out of that phase that I have not cooled on was this absolutely stellar Iguanodon figure that CollectA produced as part of their 2018 line. Now, Iguanodon is among the first dinosaurs ever named, and after all these years, it doesn't require much of an introduction. But even so, I can't say that I own many figures of the species. I can count on one hand the number of models I've seen produced of this animal, but I think it's safe to say that this is one of, if not the best offerings currently out there. You all know I'm not big on CollectA on this channel. I think their sculpting can be hit and miss, and their paint jobs even more so. But I gotta say, when they get it right, they get it right. And they absolutely got it right on this Iguanodon. This is an amazing figure that I feel showcases some of CollectA's best. So why don't we go ahead and move in for a closer look. Starting off at the head of this Iguanodon, you can see that it is sculpted with an opened mouth. This, combined with that alert orange eye, really gives the figure a lot of life and character. It looks like it has spotted something, food, a predator, a rival, and it is now calling out, perhaps to other members of the herd. The fine detailing here is so well done, with very finite scales sculpted across the board. You've also got some lovely wrinkles forming on the cheeks, showcasing how the flesh would buckle with the opening mouth. The beak itself has some nice texture to it as well, and all the muscle forms seem to be present. All in all, the head on this figure is a slam dunk. Moving on down the figure, you can see some lovely muscle tones there in the neck that have been saddled with thick wrinkling skin and more of that awesome scale work. Once you hit the midsection, you can see some great bunching up of the skin around the limbs and swell of the gut as the creature rotates its legs and arms. And man, that scale work is just so impressive to me. The base of the tail looks extremely powerful and stocky, and you can see this Iguanodon has got some junk in its trunk with that pushed back pubic boot. The scale detail continues down to the tip of the tail, and yeah, the other side, it's just as gorgeous to look at. The presentation on this thing is just awesome. I really do love all of the fine detail work that went into the model, especially that lovely skin work around the back limbs, gut, and pulling around the left arm as it propels itself forward. It's all just gorgeous work. The arms look quite powerful and reflect the appropriate proportional length to the back limbs. I love the claws on this figure. The weight-bearing digits really appear to capture a sense of depression as the creature bears its weight forward, which is great. The iconic thumb claw of Iguanodon captures an intimidating look, and all of that work is painted quite well, with variations of brown and caramel colors that give them an aged, lived-in look. The back claws feature more of the same in terms of the colors, and the musculature and what have yous in the ankles, calf, and thigh are very well rendered, along with some lovely bunching skin around the joints. Having a look at the underbelly, you can see the muscles in the lower jaw as well as the lovely treatment of the pectoral region there. Beyond that, it's just more of that lovely scale work. Then comes the CollectA logo, and of course, the standard dirty cloaca. Thank God that that is included. Something else I want to note is I appreciate how beefy it appears. With the exception of the pubic boot, this figure looks quite robust, and the proportions all appear to be quite well handled. So yeah, I think the sculpt work on this figure is absolutely fantastic. A round of applause to CollectA for this one. I think it's one of the best sculpted figures I have from them in my collection. And you know, I'm praising the heck out of this sculpt, but I should mention that a lot of its appeal is also due to the paint and the techniques they implemented to color this figure. I often feel that CollectA's paint jobs are either too simplistic or garish in their applications. Case in point, their tendency to go with war paint on the faces of their figures. This figure, however, did something interesting. You can see the underbelly is colored in that yellowish cream coloration that moves up onto the lower jaw as well, but that same color is actually the base discoloration of the entire figure. And what CollectA have done is gone in and dry brushed that lovely green coloration over the scale work on the back and flanks of the animal. It really makes all of that work pop and brings all of it out in a very natural and appealing way. Of course, the paint job, it's not perfect. The one big issue I have with it, and this figure in general, are those forest green markings. I don't mind the idea of giving the figure some breakup and patterning. In fact, I encourage it, but what CollectA have gone with here doesn't have the purposeful look that Mother Nature does with her creations. It's just sort of on there randomly, and it looks like what would happen if you gave a toddler a paintbrush and just let them go to town, which is pretty unfortunate on an otherwise well-colored figure. At least it's a good color combination, so there's that, I guess. There's also some brown spots you can see in there, but they're not nearly as distracting. So yeah, a great sculpt augmented by a mostly well done paint job makes this figure a win in terms of its visual appeal. Let's talk size, because this Iguanodon is a beast, measuring in at around 11 inches long and standing in at just around 4¼ inches off the ground. Can't tell the centimeters on either of those measurements. Too blown out. Hashtag sorry. I need to get a fabric tape measure that isn't white, I swear. But that's a problem for another day. Let's get to some comparisons. First up, we have the Deluxe Feathered Tyrannosaurus Rex, released in the same year. And you can see that this Iguanodon comes up to just under the Rex's open chin, and when the tails are lined up, it reaches the Rex's shoulders in regards to its length. But yeah, looking at these two side by side, it just feels like the style, both in terms of sculpture and paint, is night and day in favor of that Iguanodon. Next up, here it is with the CollectA Styracosaurus, recently reviewed on the channel like the Rex. Links are below, and you can see that the horns of the Styracosaurus are a little further up than the Iguanodon, but the Iguanodon wins out in terms of the length. And again, broken record here, the styles feel very different. The paint on that Styracosaurus feels extremely minimal when compared to the work that went into the Iguanodon, and even though I love that Styracosaurus, I gotta say, it isn't quite as well done in terms of its finish. And here we have it with the fan favorite CollectA Carnotaurus, and yeah, you're starting to see what I'm doing here. Love that Carnotaurus, easily one of CollectA's best in my eyes, but seeing these two side by side really makes me wish they had utilized similar coloring techniques on that Carno. I will say, these two seem to size up fairly well with each other from a real world standpoint, but perhaps not from the standpoint I have in mind. And in case you aren't picking up on what I'm thinking of, here it is with the Papo Iguanodon, who bears a striking resemblance to a certain dinosaur from film. I'm not gonna lie, I love that Papo figure despite its faults, but between these two, I think CollectA is the way to go, especially if you're aiming for accuracy. And why not? Here it is with the Papo Carnotaurus, and I gotta say, this would be a very different story if the Carno in Disney's Dinosaur was this small in comparison to the Iguanodons. Then to cap off comparisons, I couldn't find my Safari Iguanodon, and I fear it may have been lost to downsizing. So instead, for you Mattel fans out there, here it is with the Iguanodon-like Attack Pack Colovosaurus to give you an idea of how it sizes up to Mattel's action figures. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to do it for my long overdue review of the 2018 Deluxe CollectA Iguanodon. If for whatever reason it isn't clear, this is an awesome figure, and honestly one that I am ashamed took me roughly 2 years to get my hands on. So many wasted hours. Now, if, like me, you slept on this figure, don't wait a second longer. Get out there and get your hands on it. You will definitely not regret it. It is a dynamite offering from CollectA, and easily one of their best dinosaurs ever in my eyes. Great sculpt, wonderful paint techniques, sizable, accurate to the best of my knowledge. What more is there? But as always, I want to know what you guys think of this figure. Do you own it already? Are you going to pick it up now? What's your favorite Iguanodon offering in figure form, and why? Drop a comment down below, keep the conversation rolling, and as always, thank you all so much for tuning in to day 1 of Killershrewfan's 12 days of reviews. Don't forget to check back tomorrow when I'll be taking a look at a figure with a face not even a mother could love. I'll see you then, and bye-bye.